Jen from Fabbulous Paper Emporium, and we are in the last week, I guess, of CRAFTSMAS in July, and I hope you've been enjoying finding some inspiration with the videos that we've had so far. We are getting into now either a 2 or 3 part series, and I've been kind of thinking about ways that I could have like a recipe book combined with a photo album, which may sound weird, but I think for a lot of at least the holidays, I do have some very specific recipes that are used throughout the holidays, and so there's pictures that I would like to have go with them when we're making the food or enjoying the food, or you know, things surrounding the food, because it always seems to be about the food. And so this was what I came up with. So I know right now all you see is kind of a blank. There's nothing, there's just my cutouts. So I can show you a little bit, because of course I was trying to, you know, do some samples. So this is basically, it's going to be 3 folios. So we have 3 albums like this, and each of those pockets will go a little tiny flip book. So we've done some flip books before on our channel, and they've been super popular. So these little flip books are all gonna fall in place. They're all the back page, which the outside cover is 110 pound, while the paper inside is just the regular 65 pound. These come together super quick and easy, but this way you can take them out and either bring this to your table when you're making food. Also, there will be an option to use photo corners, of course, to remove the recipe cards. So these are the recipe cards that we have that we'll be using. And I know the red and black doesn't really look very Christmassy, but you got to wait for the decorative paper to go on as well. So anyway, so that's the idea. So the idea would be that you would have 3 of these, and we will be making a holder for them as well. So a nice little, kind of like one of those magazine holders. So they will hold all 3. So the idea is you have one for kind of your appetizers, your maybe soups and salads. You have one for your entrees and sides, and then you have another one for desserts and snacks. So that is what I'm doing today. So that's what we're starting with. And so we're going to start by putting together basically the folio. So we've got our outside cover. We have our red to go on the inside, as well as the pockets and the first layer there. So that's all we're doing today. The next part will be doing the little mini flip books that will go inside each pocket. We'll do some of the decorative at that point. And then the last one will be the holder, which I will not show you the one that I've already done, because it's a hot mess. I've got notes and all kinds of things on it, because you know, your prototype isn't always what you want to show people. So we're going to get started with the measurements. So for the outside, to kind of make this a little bit more sturdy, but not using chipboard, I'm using 110 pound cardstock for the outside. Adding on those layers is just going to make it that much more sturdy, so I felt like that was the best option. So for the outside, we're going to have one piece that is 8.5 by 10, and we'll be scoring this. I've already scored it, but I'll go through the scoring separately. Then this piece is 7.25 by 10. We have 4 pockets, so you're going to need 4 pieces. And the pockets are, on the back side of my card, the pockets are 7.75 by 4.5, and we'll be scoring these as well. We're also going to need, for the red, and again, I've just chosen red. We're using a photo play paper Christmas cheer in order to decorate it. So lots of blacks and reds in there as well, but rest assured it will look very holiday by the time we're done. So for the red cardstock, we're using 2 pieces that are 7 by 9 3/4. And then I've cut a red piece for the front of all the pockets, and the red pieces are so again, you'll need 4 of these. These are 6 1/4 by 3 1/2. Okay, so let's get started. It is super simple to put these together. Again, I've chosen to do 3. You could definitely, because there's 4 pockets, if you have a very small amount of maybe recipes that you want to include, then you can include everything all in the same one, with each of your pockets being a different idea. There could be breakfast or brunch ideas. There could be, like I said, some snacks, some desserts, some mains, some sides, appetizers, you know, your heart, whatever your heart desires. So in order to put this together, I am going to, give you the score marks first. So for the piece that is, I believe this was 8 1/2 by 10. So for this piece, we are going to score at 7 1/4 and at 8. So this will give us our spine as well as a tab that we can attach our other piece to. So this is what I've been doing lately, and I have found that it has helped me get everything lined up properly. So the nice thing about the score pal and the score mat is, even with the score mat in place, you have a lip at the top and at the side. And I find like this lip just helps so much to get everything aligned to where we want it to be. So I've scored this one, like I said, already at 7 1/4 and 8. So on the very far end with this little tab right here, I'm going to apply, after I make some mess. Oh boy, come on. Okay, so I'm going to apply my 3/8 score tape, because that will be just narrow, a little bit narrower, about 1/8 inch narrower than the 1/2 inch score mark. So we are wanting to keep that as close to the outside edge as possible. We don't want to go across or get too close to our score mark, because then that becomes problematic. Then the folding doesn't quite happen as easily as one would like. I started off by pulling back some of the adhesive backing. I'm lining it up at the top corner, and then I'm going to line the top page up as well. Now, if you feel like there's not enough of a lip, you can absolutely remove the score mat, and that way your paper is really sunken in, so you can definitely get a nice, you know, you're not going to be kind of all over the place. So I'm kind of maintaining a bit of pressure on the bottom piece with this hand, kind of keeping that stuffed in the corner. And then as I go to apply my top piece, I only peeled back a little bit of the backing, because if I get a little bit of the top cover adhered and it's not in the right place, I can definitely pick it up and move it around. So I'm not kind of married to where it ends up, because if you use a score tape before, you know it grabs good, and is really hard to release again. So once I see, now these 2 pieces are not going to line up properly, because remember, you've got that gusset, the 3/4 of an inch gusset. So my top piece is lined up at the 7 1/4, but more importantly, it's all lined up at the far left side. So now I have this little tab that I can start pulling. As I pull, I come back and press a little bit to make sure that we're getting the top part glued down where we like it. And it's really just as simple as that. So I like to have the part where we have our seam, I like to make that the back. So you can just flip it over and there we go. We have our back. Okay, so now that that's done, and hopefully you've seen just how simple this can be, we're gonna move on to making our pockets. So our pockets, again, super simple with just a few score marks. I'm just gonna move this off to the side. So I start off by scoring, you're gonna do a 1/2 inch on 3 sides. So both on, okay, we're gonna start off with the 4.5 inch across the top. We take our scoring tool and we're going to score at 4 inches. That will give us a 1/2 inch tab. Then I rotate it 90 degrees and I score a 1/2 inch on either end. So a 1/2 inch and then 7.25 inches. And that will give me a piece that has a 1/2 inch score mark on all 3 sides. The top, obviously, that's where the flip book is going to be going, so we leave that alone. We don't have any score marks on that side. And then the very last thing, and I realize that I did this to all of mine, so I don't even have a sample, but when you have, just thinking, maybe I should just grab one of my spare pieces. Give me 1 second, just so that I can, so this makes sense. So I know this isn't the right measurement, but you are going to have, just for example's sake, so you're going to have a rectangle that looks like this. You have 2 little squares at the bottom 2 corners that we're going to want to cut out. Now, how we cut this out though, is you want to cut, if you're cutting the right hand side square, I'm cutting on the left side of the score mark because I want that score mark to disappear. I cut it a bit on the angle so that I'm going in towards that corner. I turn it 90 degrees and then my score mark is here. I'm going to cut to the right side of that score mark. And again, do the same thing. I'm cutting in towards where that corner is. So you're cutting a little bit at an angle. So if you see here, my cuts are not quite straight, which is fine, which is perfect, because these are going to be folded in behind, and mitering those edges just means that this piece is not impacting the score mark on the bottom and will allow this piece to fold up nicely. Nobody's going to see the back, so nobody's going to know that they're just a little bit off. So you're going to do that to all of the corners. So you're going to have 8 corners in total that you're going to need to cut out in that way. And then once you have all that done, we are going to apply some more score tape. Score tape I've just found, it's like instant. I mean, I know that the if you're using Barely Art or Art Glitter Glue or whatever glue you're using, I mean, you pretty much know the dry time. So if it's one of those that dries pretty quickly, you should be okay. I mean, by the time you get to gluing all of your envelopes, it should be, you know, your first one should be dry, hopefully by that time. But I'm just adding, so this is my, again, my 3/8 score tape, which, oh, I gotta press that harder. This 3/8 score tape. So this way I know that I'm within the little tab at the bottom, and I know that these tabs are going to be totally fine as well. And the reason why, I will be putting some more strips on either side, but I do that once it's all folded, and I'll show you why. So how I do this, I'm going to burnish all of my score marks here. So I'm going to do the sides, and then I'm going to do the bottom. Doesn't really matter what order you do them in, so long as they all get done. But when we apply when we put the together, I like to put this bottom flap, I've started putting the bottom flap, adhering it on top of the 2 side flaps. And the reason being is this bottom flap, if it's underneath, can sometimes hang up the flip book that you're putting in. And I find that that happens less when the bottom tab is covering the two side tabs. So it is personal preference, I guess. So it's completely up to you. So I'm going to take away my two side tabs and I'm going to fold over my bottom. So this way you've got your two side tabs are now folded in and they're nicely adhered on either side. I'm going to come back in and I'm going to apply the rest of my score tape on either side. I didn't want the score tape to go underneath the bottom tab because then it would be pretty much impossible to get it back up. So this is what your pocket would look like. And you're going to repeat that for the rest of the pockets that you have. So I'm going to get to that right now and I'll be back in just a second. Okay, so all of my pockets are now done. Before you install your pockets, you're going to want to put in, if you're using a layer on the behind, you're going to want to install that now. If you're wanting to use designer paper, or if you're using red and a designer paper, or another, whatever it is that you're putting behind these pockets, you need to do that now. So I wanted to bring in just really quickly, just so that you get an idea, there isn't a lot of the red that's going to be showing because the pockets are covering it. And when I say the red, I meant these two pieces. So if you're wanting to use designer paper, that is totally fine, but I just wanted you to be aware that even this part, there's a lot that's going to be covered here because of the flip books that go in. So the pockets are not, they only end up being 4 inches deep. The flip books are 4.5 inches tall. So you're only really going to see this border, which is why I chose a solid. So just something to keep in mind when you are choosing your paper, that initially I too was like, oh, I'm going to use a pretty paper, but then you're really not going to see it. So I'll reserve the pretty paper for the front of the pockets, for the front of the folios. I almost call them albums, and I guess they are recipe kind of albumy kind of things. So I'm going to apply both of my red pieces with as equal of a border all the way around. Do that to both. And then we will install the pockets. Oh, and I shouldn't forget to mention that we have our giveaway going on. So if you have not already registered or entered, I should say, our giveaway is, because we've reached 500 subscribers, which has been amazing. I am so utterly thrilled that we've reached that milestone, and I'm looking forward to reaching the next one, which I'm guessing would be 1,000. So anyhow, I just wanted to make mention of that. I will put the link in the description box below as to which video it is, so that you can hop on over and enter if you haven't already. So I am going to peel back a little bit from each strip. So a little bit from the bottom and a little bit from both sides. And because we have just put together this, which I did a very similar method, I guess, of putting down or of using score tape, then it's just my go-to right now. And I don't think that'll ever change because it saved my butt more times than I can imagine. So putting in the pockets, you do have to be aware So something also to note, that you do have to be aware that these bottom pockets need to be close to the bottom, and I believe it's about 1/8 of an inch from the bottom, from the bottom of the black for the pocket to the bottom of the red. So be very conscious of that. And then between the top of the pocket here to the bottom of this pocket is just about 5/8 of an inch. And so just, again, something to be aware of, because when your flip book goes in, it's going to sit just like that, and you don't necessarily want it overlapping a ton. So I've placed mine and I designed this so that you didn't have a lot of overlap, because these can get pretty bulky if you're putting, in my mind, I created them so that we have, let me find out which one. Okay, this one is the top. So that you can put some beautiful designer paper on the front. So again, that will be your main focus when you open it. And then you can have a recipe card, a photo, recipe card, photo, recipe card. And that's kind of my train of thought when this was created. So my bottom piece, I'm going to eyeball it, I have a rough idea of where it needs to go. And I'm only putting pressure on the areas that do not have the tape peeled back. So when I like the position of it, I'm going to press down on this corner and just peel that tab. I'm going to press down on the left corner and peel that tab, and so on and so forth. So there we go. So first pocket is installed. And then for the second pocket, I know the first time that I put this together, I kind of used the flip book as my guide, which you can also do. And so I've put in, take the back last page of the flip book, I fit that in. Now, of course, we don't have our flip books done quite yet. That will be in the next tutorial. And I kind of put a bit of a pencil mark. So I moved it over this way, did a pencil mark here, slide it out, and then you can kind of place this one accordingly so that I'm giving myself a little bit of space. I also have enough space at the top that I'm not going to have a lot of overlap. There will be a 1/2 inch at the top where your flip book, the top of your flip book is. So long as this space is less than a half, or is more than a 1/2 inch, you're good to go. Okay, so I'm going to do the exact same thing for the next pocket. I'm going to peel back each of these strips, but just a bit. Okay, I've got I'm aligning it as best I can on the top and the bottom. Again, not pressing, not putting any pressure where the adhesive is. So even if it does tack down a little bit like it just did, it's easy to pull back up. So I'm not too worried about that. Okay, so I like it there. I'm going to push down a bit and then start releasing the strips. You can totally eyeball it if you're comfortable with that. I'm not necessarily, and even doing it this way, I mean, you are kind of eyeballing it, I guess. So anyhow, putting in these ones is a little bit easier because you do have, again, I'm looking at the red space around the pocket, but now I have this pocket to kind of guide me a little bit more. So putting in the next two pockets is going to be relatively easy. Perfect. So we are done with part one. So part 1 has brought us to this point. Now you can decide if you're going to make 1, 2, 3, maybe more. Our holder is designed to hold 3 because, like I said, I had an idea for 3 separate, I guess, types of food that you would make, almost. But you can do this however you want, and of course it doesn't even have to be recipe books. You could just use this as a photo album that you can take out and put back in. So I hope you'll join me for part 2. That will be coming up tomorrow. So do make sure that you follow that up and watch. And then our final project will be immediately following this, which was, this was supposed to be our grand finale, but I found another project that was just, it was too good to pass up, and I did not want to miss this opportunity. So we have our finale is an album, which you are not going to want to miss. So like I said before, if you haven't already entered our giveaway, that would be great. Just pop on over. It's in the description box below. And that runs through the raffle is open until the end of this month, so the end of July 2022. If you haven't already subscribed, hit that subscribe button below and help us get to 1,000, because you know the giveaway is going to be even more awesome. And if you have subscribed, make sure you hit that notification bell so you get notified when we post new videos, which is going to be very frequent apparently in the next couple of days. So hopefully you've enjoyed our time together, and I know I have, and hopefully you continue to have a fabulous day. Thanks again. I'll see you later. Bye.